I was brought into this world as an ignorant child, like you and every other person on this planet. I was born into a very white family of primarily Swedish and English descent in a primarily white neighborhood in Minneapolis, right here. I went to predominantly white public schools where I interacted with mostly white people. I didn't know any Native Americans as peers until high school, and none of my family was of Indian descent, as far as we know. My first exposure to Native imagery was ironically enough through Thanksgiving decorations in my elementary school classrooms. The Indians were always present in the stories, but we all dressed up as pilgrims, identified by the construction paper hats with the iconic gold buckle set on the front. We were taught the idealized story of Thanksgiving, with the cornucopia and all the regalia and a distinct lack of smallpox. We learned about the union of two peoples from different parts of the world and how the natives were eager to offer their bountiful harvest to the white folk just off the boat. As I moved into middle and high school, I learned in history class about the more nuanced nature of that relationship and how that story had a more unfortunate ending than we were led to believe, and how its true form was indicative of the future relationship between whites and natives over the course of the next 400 years. This was all second-hand interaction, though, a hand-me-down from teachers and textbooks of a tightly packaged and trimmed narrative which has had more than a few facelifts upon subsequent retellings. Although I didn't overtly and consciously interact with any native peoples throughout my childhood, I frequently splashed in lakes and gallivanted along rivers that bore their names. I often visited throughout my youth Lake Nokomis, a few miles southeast from my house. In Ojibwe language, Nokomis means my grandmother. Minnehaha Creek flows by my home and down to Minnehaha Falls. Minnehaha was a fictional Native American woman in Henry Wadsworth Longfellow's 1855 poem, The Song of the Hiawatha. She is the lover of Hiawatha, and although the work precedes the invention of film, the tragic narrative culminating in her death fits snugly with the image of the celluloid maiden presented by Marubio in her essay, Killing the Indian Maiden. This name Minnehaha translates to waterfall or rapid water in Dakota. The Mississippi River, a body of water I have crossed countless times, derives its name from the word Mississippi, the French rendering of the Anishinaabe Mississippi, meaning great river. Finally, Minneapolis is a combination of the Dakota word mini and the ancient Greek word polis, which together have been deemed to mean waterfall city. This combination and compromise between native tongues of the Old World and the New seems like a beautiful way to emphasize a bond between peoples, but the sentiment that it conveys is soured by the reality of white subjugation of and aggression towards the Dakota people who lived on the land where the skyscrapers now loom, before they were actively forced off. I have lived in the proximity and within the boundaries of many spaces and places which are identified by a native moniker. When I think of natives in relation to me, I think of my surroundings. I picture St. Anthony Falls as it was before it became the icon of the Mill City. I remember the beaches of Lake Nokomis and the banks of Minnehaha Creek, whose grounds are consistently scattered with trash deposited by years of human consumption. I know how the Dakota people feel about this desecration, and I feel shame. Using Indian names for places which we have taken from native people should be a reminder of the work white society is compelled to do to elevate natives from the hole we forced them into. We should not treat natives as a lost cause, a dead or dying people whose greatest stories can only be told from digging up their ancient burial sites. And we should not pollute the lakes and rivers that bear their names, which they derived life and livelihood from, as doing so is further disrespecting their culture and legacy. Indian names should remind us of the full story of our country, not a sugar-coated version where the pilgrims immediately find amicable relationships with the natives in the land. We should remember the middle, even if it is rocky, and how it shaped where we are today.